Hello, Abnormal Investigations. I've got your 5 o'clock encounter coming up. I think y'all are going to really enjoy this one, and I for sure look for your comments in this story. I believe we're going to have a lot. Let's go ahead and get into it. I live in Oregon, and I cared for my dying husband. I would take walks in the mountains to clear my mind. I went on a walk one day, and as I walked, the fresh mountain air and the sounds of the birds singing in the trees seemed to wash away the worries and fatigue of caring for my husband. The weight of responsibility, the endless doctor appointments, and the sleepless nights all seemed to fade into the background as I immersed myself into nature. I remember the days when my husband and I would take these walks together, hand in hand, enjoying the beauty of the mountains and the peace that came with it. Now he was bedridden, and he could not speak. He had had a really bad stroke and was having bad seizures. And I was his primary caregiver. But in these moments, surrounded by the splendor of the natural world, I felt a sense of freedom and release. The walks became my sanctuary, my escape from the challenges of caregiving. They gave me the strength and courage to keep going, to keep caring for my husband with the love and compassion. And as I walked, I felt grateful. I apologize, guys, my computer went crazy. The walks became my sanctuary, my escape from the challenges of caregiving. They gave me the strength and courage to keep going, to keep caring for my husband with the love and compassion. And as I walked, I felt grateful for the beautiful place we called home, for the mountains that stood tall and proud, and for the peace that they brought to my soul. At first, I thought it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. But as the days went by, I caught glimpses of the creature again and again. It was always lurking in the distance, watching me. I tried to approach it, but it would quickly disappear into the trees. Despite its elusive nature, I felt a strange connection to the creature. I started leaving food for it on my walks, hoping it would come closer. I'd place apples or berries on a rock or a log, and sure enough, they'd be gone the next day. I began to feel like I was being taken care of, like the creature was watching over me. It was a strange feeling, but it brought me comfort. I started to look forward to my walks, hoping to catch a glimpse of my furry friend. As the weeks went by, I started to notice strange things. The creature would move objects like sticks and rocks to create a path for me. It would leave me little gifts like a pretty stone or a feather. I felt like I was being guided, like the creature was trying to communicate with me in its own way. I knew it sounded crazy, but I felt like I had a special bond with the creature. And as I walked through the mountains, I felt grateful for its presence in my life. That's when I noticed that it had followed me to my home. At first I thought it was just the wind or my imagination. But then I heard it again, a faint rustling, a soft breathing sound right outside Robert's window. I knew it was the creature, and my heart skipped a beat. I tried to shake off the feeling of unease, telling myself it was just my mind playing tricks on me. But as the nights went by, the sounds persisted. I would hear it whispering a low, gentle murmur, like it was trying to communicate with Robert. Robert would become restless. He would move around in his bed. His blood pressure on his machine would spike until I would go to the room, turn on the light, and the creature would leave. I knew it sounded crazy, but I felt like the creature was trying to connect with my husband, like it was trying to tell him something. I started to feel a sense of wonder and a sense of awe at the thought of this mysterious being reached out to us. I began to leave food outside Robert's window, hoping the creature would come closer. And then one night I saw it. It was standing right outside the window, its eyes shining in the dark, looking right in at Robert, right over him. I had the blinds opened so the creature could see us, so it knew that we were not its enemy. Robert's eyes were focused on it, large. He began to rustle. I froze, my heart pounding as I reached out my hand and put my hand against the glass. In that moment I felt a deep sense of peace, a sense of connection to something greater than ourselves. I knew that our lives were about to change in ways we couldn't imagine. As I stood there frozen in wonder, the creature's hand pressed against mine on the other side of the glass. I felt a surge of energy, and as I looked, there was an extra finger that didn't match my fingers. The beast had 6 fingers. Wow. A sense of warmth and comfort, like a gentle embrace. It was as if the creature was trying to tell me something, to convey a message that went beyond words. I looked into its eyes and saw a deep wisdom, an ancient knowledge, that seeming to hold the secrets. But Robert he couldn't stand it. He was so moved, he was just shaking and moving and making grunts. I think he wanted to talk to it also. He knew that this creature was special. The creature's hand remained pressed against mine for what felt like an eternity, and then slowly it withdrew. I was left standing there feeling a sense of awe and wonder, trying to process what had just happened. So I left the window open in case Robert wanted to visit with it through the rest of the night. I was tired and needed to sleep. I went on my normal walk and noticed that the creature was not following me this time. I was a little worried when I returned to the cabin. Robert was laying on the floor. He had fallen from his hospital bed. I called 911, and when they arrived, they worked on Robert what seemed like forever, but they could not bring my Robert back to me. They tried so hard. I was in shock. My world crumbled around me. Robert, my beloved husband, the man I had cared for and loved for so long, was gone. I felt like I had been punched in the gut, like all the air had been sucked out of me. The creature, the being that had seemed so gentle and kind, had been so last thing to interact with my Robert before his fall. I couldn't help but wonder if it was something to do with his death. I had to try to help him, or I had it inadvertently caused his fall? The question swirled in my mind as I held Robert's lifeless body in my arms. Tears streaming down my face, I felt like I was in a nightmare, like this was all some terrible dream that I couldn't wake up from. The days that followed were a blur of grief and sadness. I went through the motions of planning the funeral and saying goodbye to my beloved husband, but my heart was shattered into a million pieces. And yet, even in my grief, I couldn't shake the feeling that the creature had been trying to tell me something, that it had been trying to prepare me for this moment, to help me understand that life was precious and fleeting. I knew it sounded crazy, but I felt like the creature had been trying to teach me a lesson, to help me see the world in a different way. And as I looked up at the mountains, I knew that I would never forget the being that had changed my life forever. As I continued to feed the creature, I began to realize that it wasn't a monster at all. It was a guardian, a protector. It had been watching over me and Robert all along, trying to help us in its own way. I named the creature Gentle, and over time it became more than just a mysterious being. It became a friend. It would follow me on my walks, keeping a distance but always watching over me. It would leave me gifts and berries and herbs at my door, and even help me with tasks around the house. It would pull tomatoes and things out of the garden and leave those on my doorstep for me. People in town sometimes would get a glimpse of Gentle and be frightened, but I knew the truth. But I don't let nobody know. It was a kind and gentle soul, misunderstood by those who didn't take the time to understand it. And as I looked into the eyes, I knew that Gentle was more than just a creature. It was a symbol of hope and redemption. It reminded me that even in the darkest of times, there was always a possibility for connection and understanding. Years have passed since Robert's passing, but Gentle remains by my side. It's a reminder that love and kindness can come in many forms, and that sometimes the most unlikely creatures can become our best friends. And someday I hope Gentle trusts me enough to get close enough to me where I can remove that awful collar that he has around his neck. I believe that day will soon come. Mike, I wanted you to know this story so that you would know that not all these are evil as you say they are. Thank you for sharing my story. Well, I don't think you've changed my mind. Uh, Number one, I couldn't help but wonder what was that creature saying to poor Robert while he was laying in that bed. With the blood pressure spiking and him doing all that, I would say that it was not a comfortable conversation. And for you to allow Robert to lay in that bed unable to talk or move or anything, and to leave his window open with his head at the window with this thing looking up and over him, there is no telling what happened to him that night, what it said to him, or what he even seen. He could have seen more than just that, and all he could do was lay there and look at it. And you said they were trying to talk to him and whisper to him. There's no telling what they were telling him. He probably went through straight hell. This creature wasn't your friend. It was tormenting your husband. And feeding it, that's one of the biggest mistakes I believe that you can make. You're feeding this thing, letting it know that if it killed your husband, which I believe it did, you're telling it it was okay, and now you're rewarding it for what it done. Your husband's neck that was broke wasn't from the fall, I don't believe. I believe that creature came in and ended your husband's life. And it probably wants you. It may be jealous of you. But I think eventually you're going to meet the same fate. I think that, y'all may get along for a while, but I think there's a time coming to where you're going to actually see what these things truly are, and that'll be the end of your days, and, well, you'll be some accident that happened in the woods. I just can't help but it bothers me that Robert was left laying in that bed like that with the windows wide open, and God knows what looked in that window at him all night, and he couldn't even say nothing. He just had to look at it. And they're telling what they done to him, ran their fingers down the window, staring at him, pushing their face against it, whispering to him. He probably went through straight hell. So no, you haven't changed my mind. I may be wrong, guys. It's just my opinion. I look forward to seeing your comments, but that's kind of how I feel about it. So thank you for listening, guys. Until next time, keep your head on a swivel. And don't be something's dinner. Over and seen our new backup channel, AI Seeking the Truth. You're going to want to check that out. Kaylee's helping me narrate that channel. It's growing really, really fast. And let me tell you, there is some scary stuff we're sharing over there that doesn't quite fit this channel. So if you have not checked out AI Seeking the Truth, I think you're really going to miss a big part of this channel and some of the things that happens, because let me tell you, there's people sending in some crazy things that are going to be released over there, and I think you're really going to enjoy them. And also, there is some sad things. So it's going to be a mixture of a lot of things, but I think you're going to want to hear what people have to say. Thank you, guys.